Hello, everybody. So, I am recording this because I'm mourning something at the moment. I'm not going to tell you what. It's nothing like, how do I say this? It's nothing that's that serious, but I still can't quite shake it off, and I need something to distract myself. And I want to clear some things up about the video that I posted a couple days ago. I do apologize for my extreme use of language. I mean, it's not really extreme. Everybody swears, but I should have approached the topic with a little bit more grace. I'm not saying that canon deserves grace per se, but it is a very delicate subject because we're talking about a person who is scamming people and who is telling objective lies. So even if you aren't religious and you don't need a religious framework in order to counter argument her quote unquote points, it's still kind of bad to swear, even though I guess was kind of warranted because I was so fed up with this charlatan of a person. And I do wish that I could have censored myself, not even like edited, the video again, even though I could have done that. No. And I am aware that other religions do exist, and I did say in that video that I respect other religions, I respect other concepts, but of, seeing the world through a different lens. And some religions are really fascinating, and even though I don't believe in them, because I believe in the religion that I was baptized in, I still believe that, people of other religions should just live. I believe that people shouldn't be forcefully converted into a different religion. Or that they should die because they don't want to convert to a different religion. Because technically, in Christianity, kind of the point of us being on earth is to spread the word of God. However, I don't agree with all of the approaches personally, so don't take my word for it. That doesn't mean they have to believe the same thing as me. But I personally don't believe in, forcefully converting people or killing people because they don't want to convert to your religion. I don't like what Mother Teresa did, for instance, because she would just let people die even though, they could have been cured. She never really provided any sort of medical attention for those people, because in her eyes you have to die in order to, be somebody. And again, I don't agree with converting people to religion post-mortem or when they're about to die. I think that is very selfish. And I think it's quite frankly disgusting, because when you're that sick, you cannot comprehend what's going on. You just have to take it, and you don't know what's going to happen if you don't, because people pressuring, and you're already seconds away from dying, and it's disgusting. That doesn't mean that, good people don't exist. I just don't like the bad ones who are framed as good people. I guess this could also include canon, even though she mixes a bunch of religions, in my opinion, disrespects them all. Because you cannot believe in God and then believe in past lives and then believe that you can only cure things with your mind and that it's your fault that you're sick and so on and so forth. That's pretty much an appropriation of, in my opinion, especially of Christianity and of Hinduism, because they have the concept of past lives. And it's like you skim through what religions are and what religions exist, and you skim their framework and then you take out what you want. It's kind of the same with yoga, for instance, where it was initially, again, a practice from Hinduism, but it was appropriated and now it's taken over as something else, and the original meaning was lost. And I don't like this at all, and I'm going to speak out on it. Because, first of all, I have the freedom to, and I have the right to. And it's my opinion. And second of all, through what I'm talking about, I want to encourage people to especially think for themselves. You don't have to think the same way as me. You can tell me, hey, you're wrong because of this, that, and the other. You can tell me to go to hell, I don't care. But I want you to pretty much, if anybody other than me sees this video or my videos, I want you to learn for yourself, basically. I want you to do your own research. I want my videos to inspire you to see, regardless of your religion or your framework, to see through, basically. I also want to address one thing. What made me make this video? So, basically, I had a certain professor at my university, and I'm not going to share details for my well-being and for that professor's well-being. I had a practical course with this professor during my first semester of my second year, which I've just finished. I finished the year, not the semester. This is summertime, but it depends on your time zone, I guess. Depends on your hemisphere. And her courses weren't like necessarily strange, but they weren't the best in my opinion because they were very laxed. She didn't really care about attendance. There was an attendance list, but she didn't really thoroughly check, so you could like tell somebody, hey, can you write me down on the attendance list? And they would, and the professor. It's convenient for some people, not that great for others, especially for the ones who want to learn. But anyways, I attended most of her courses, and this practical course was held once every 2 weeks, so there were 6 courses. 6 classes, sessions, whatever. Because the first one was right at the beginning of the semester, the beginning of the year, and she wasn't at the university at the time, so we pretty much stood there for 45 minutes waiting and nothing. Well, not all of us, obviously. And she would read texts, and we, the students, had to read the questions and the answers on the papers that she would give us. Pretty easy, right? And it was a very easy course. The test, we had a test and we took it online. We had to choose between 2 texts, and she always chose American texts, which nothing unusual there. But when we did Miriam by Truman Capote, she said something about chakras and about, like, there was this diagram of circle within circle within circle within circle, and there are like these weird stages or something. And I brought up a theory in class that perhaps maybe Miriam imagined, I'm going to spoil the text for you, Miriam's alter ego, the younger Miriam, is a reflection of her own grief and perhaps of her own guilt, because She probably killed her own husband. I mean, she could have done it for the insurance money. She was lonely in the text. Think about the time period as well. Like, it would be very convenient, you know. And the professor didn't like that because she's like, oh, I don't like your theory. I personally don't like it. She didn't really give me a specific reason. She just said that it's too sad and that she doesn't like it when it's just a theory. I didn't say that it was the truth. Truman Capote said himself. He wrote a letter. And he said that the text is just that. It's what's in the text. There's not much else. Like, you can make up your own theories about it. It's what's in front of you. That's the text. You don't need any theories. It's literally there. And I was fine with it. But before I even had the first class of this professor, I knew something was off because some people were sharing her Facebook profile, which I'm obviously not going to share for privacy reasons. But just know it was one of the most unhinged things I've ever seen. And I kind of lost respect for her, but she was just like very uninterested. She just read to us. When I took the test, which was online, we just had to write everything in a Word document. We didn't have to share our screens or anything. I don't know if that could be possible on the software we use for online meetings. Basically, I had to choose between two texts. And I chose Miriam, and basically we had to tackle the questions on the papers, and those papers were readily available online. And I answered based on those questions. Yes, my text was kind of incoherent because the structure didn't really make any sense because I was answering questions instead of having my own essay. And I think I got an 8 or a 9. I'm not quite sure. No, I think I got a 9 out of 10. 8 was in another course. But it still added up to my grade and whatever. And I was kind of bummed. And I did answer during classes, and if you know me in real life, you know that I am a yapper, okay? I'm going to constantly raise my hand. I'm going to answer in class. The professor really has to tell me, Delia, stop raising your hand, let others speak, okay? It's been a problem since childhood, guys. It's been there. It's always been there. Even Santa Claus had to write in my letters from grade school, hey, maybe, you're not the only person in the classroom who wants to learn, okay? Just don't raise your hand that often. The teacher wants other people to answer to, okay? Okay, he was nicer, but anyways. It's still funny. And she didn't really let people answer. I only answered in the online classes, which were 2, I think. 2 online classes, yeah. Yeah, there were 2 online classes as far as I'm concerned, or 3. And I kind of answered there, and she kind of valued my answers. She kind of liked them, and I still got a 9. And some people got an 8. They were unlucky because she never mentioned this at the beginning of the class, okay? Because you didn't show enough participation. Well, where's the participation, girl? You didn't really require it. The class was mostly this professor talking to herself anyways, and it was really hard to answer or to add something to the conversation in person. It was much easier to do online. You just had to raise your hand virtually, and the professor would catch that and would let you answer. Because again, I'm very scared of interrupting people as well, so I don't really answer that much unless the professor asks a question, you know? And I usually get maximum points on participation anyway, which, you know what, I have to flex. I'm sorry. And then there was another text, which we did. I think it was the Pastures of Heaven or Millie or whatever it was, and she kept on saying very weird things, okay? She translated words which didn't really need a translation from English to my native language, and I I don't know, she would translate, she was very explicit too. I know we're all adults, like, we're all like 20-year-olds or 19-year-olds or 21-year-olds, depending on when you were born and when you were sent to school. If there is a certain theory, like, I don't know, Freudian theory or feminist theory or sexual theory or stuff like that, I get why you'd say that, but she just, like, spitballed, basically. Like, I don't need to know, ma'am. And I don't want the metaphor for the birds in the sky. They're just birds, okay? It doesn't mean anything. And she would just say these things, and I was like, can you, in my mind, of course, I'm not, can you stop? Ma'am, you're in your 60s. I think she's 60 or something now. So, late 50s. You're in your late 50s, ma'am. Can you, like, stop saying that? Again, there's a difference between when a university professor tackles these theories with tact and they actually make sense. For instance, I know I did an Edgar Allan Poe text, and there was one sexual theory which made sense because the professor framed it in such a way that it would make sense, and it was only tackled in one course. And as much as it was kind of gross, it wasn't his fault. It was just a theory. He had to teach us about the literary theory, you know, because it could fall into the exam. And here's another thing. I then was very curious, like throughout the semester, I was very curious on what she would post on Facebook. And it was weird. It was extremely weird. Like, I wouldn't check in daily. I would check in whenever I'd remember, because, you know, I have my own life. Yeah, my classes were like 2-hour-long classes. We can't pick our own schedule, by the way. It's not like in the United States where you pick your own classes and you add them up yourself. No, those classes are picked for you, and you write a semestrial sheet. So it's per semester, 2 semesters, right? And you would fill in that sheet with the courses. Some courses you could choose, others you had to choose based on your major and minor. And then you would add the points up yourself, and then you'd send it to the secretary office, and they would fill it in, and those are the classes, you know? And that would be within a certain time limit, and usually it would be at the beginning of the semester, so you'd already be attending the courses anyway. And her course, I think, was the last one I had on, I think, a Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. But again, it was once every 2 weeks. I think it was from 4 to 6, if I'm not mistaken. And you can imagine that I was exhausted. And I was like, I just want to go home. But at least she was chill enough that she didn't really need... I mean, she would pick on people to answer questions, but you just have to read them. You didn't have to give your own answers because they're already on the paper, but whatever. But circling back to her Facebook, I saw that she was really into the New Age stuff, and the first thing that I saw is that she would repost a lot, and she would repost a lot of AA slop. There was, for instance, because there was this controversy with the Olympic Games and the Seine River, and French people were threatening to... They should, because come on, Macron, you cannot clean the river unless it's for the Olympics, and then you want to prove that it's swimmable and you don't fall through. Like, can we just not swim in the Seine, please? Can we not swim into historically filthy rivers? That's all I'm asking for. And there were like these plastic things and whatever. AA slop, I don't need to explain it to you. I think you can already picture it in your own head. It wasn't that bad. It was just like plastic trash and stuff or whatever. And she, how do I say this without... So if you're from my country, which I'll not mention, but if you're from any Eastern European country, that's all the geographical coordinates I'll give you. You know that there were huge controversies in the political field. There were elections. votes were cast, and there were certain people, certain politicians who relied on some help. Let's just say it like that, and never disclosed it. And they would make campaigns on social media with false claims, videos which were obviously fake, but people, especially the elderly, didn't catch on because, again, lack of education. Because, oh, back during the good old times of communism, people were educated. Well, clearly not, because where's the critical thinking, ma'am? Ma'am, you're like 60, and you don't know that's AI? Anyways, a bunch of empty promises, a bunch of pulling at the strings of nationalist people, because the elderly really have to be influenced emotionally in order to vote, apparently, but whatever. And thankfully, the election was canceled after the president, who was supposed to leave the presidency, found out that something was a brewing, and she was really pissed. And there was another candidate, and I don't know, it was really weird. She would post weird memes all the time, and basically she had lots of nationalist beliefs. And then when this year's election happened, and the candidate who should have won, she was pissed because, oh, the election was stolen. Oh, this politician's lawyer will prove that the election was stolen and other stuff. But sprinkled throughout all of the far-right nonsense was something very weird. So she would, and this is why I even made the video to begin with, because I was looking at her page over the summer. I just wanted to see what else she reposted and stuff, and it was so weird. A bunch of New Age stuff. People claiming that Lemuria and Atlantis are actually real places, which, okay, weird, not true, but anyways. That, there are civilizations living under the pyramids, which again, not true. Pyramids were mainly used for burial, and they were very recent in ancient Egypt's history. Before that, there were literally mass graves. Mixing a bunch of beliefs into one. So you have science fiction, you have Christianity, you have Hinduism, and maybe some Buddhism sprinkled throughout. And she would post these altars, these shrines that she'd make with lots of crystals, with prayers, which were like, oh, Mother Earth, heal us, heal the country and stuff. Oh my god, she literally made one of these things before the election. It's so funny. And it clearly didn't work in her favor, so there's that. And then I saw that she changed her description one day during my second semester of college, because I was just curious. I wanted to see, hey, what's going on with this woman? And I saw that she changed her description, and it said that she had a QHHT level 2 diploma, sorry. She got her level 1 in like 2017, I guess, which, okay, weird. But the level 2 is, so level 1 is just, you can brainwash people into believing that they can cure their illnesses with their mind, right? They can cure cancer on their own, heart problems, stomach problems, AIDS, I guess. Hey, hi, hello, it's me. I'm editing the video. While I was editing the video that you're watching, or you're listening to, if you're like me and you can only watch videos, you have other things to do too sometimes, like jump off the walls. I was thinking of this woman who has like this purple hair and is dressed like a butch lesbian, and who constantly appears on my reels. And she says, in the name of Jesus Christ, I rebuke your tonsil stones. I rebuke your kidney stone. I'm sorry. Try not to swear, but it's too funny. Like, she kind of like casts
quote-unquote prayers to quote-unquote heal you. So basically Laura's Canon 2.0, and people are like, and she says, comment amen to receive your prayer. And people actually comment amen. And that was not what I was thinking about while I was editing this section. Okay, transmission over.
Very predatory and disgusting. Go to the doctor. Like I said in my last video, if you have actual medical concerns, go to medical professionals, okay? That's what they're there for, alright? Regardless of your beliefs and stuff. They know better than you. They've been through college, they've been through residency, countless exams. Trust me, they know what they're talking about. And if you're not a medical professional, you kind of don't, okay? Level 2 is basically I can talk to aliens, I can access quote-unquote hidden worlds. Basically, canon pretty much created this science fiction thing, and she couldn't stop, okay? And the problem is not that, she would write fiction if it was like fiction, and let's say she would mix a little bit of Christianity with Hinduism and with fringe conspiracies and aliens, and it wasn't actually a thing that she would profit off of sick people and stuff like that. I mean, I'd still criticize it, but I wouldn't say it's harmful, right? But
This is where I'm going to hit you with a nuh-uh, because guess how the satanic panic started in the 80s in America? It was a quote-unquote psychologist who got married to a woman, and basically she said that she was going under certain things in her childhood, and that her father was in some sort of satanic cult and all of that, and was revealed to be a hoax because there was no proof, and she was just making things up under duress, and her husband was profiting off of her. And people didn't know that back then, and they're like, oh, my kid listens to Ozzy Osbourne, Satan, rebuke. But yeah, it got really bad because people were actually harmed. And as far as I'm concerned, Satanism is actually really chill. They're mostly atheists, and they just have like some rules and stuff. They don't perform animal sacrifices and stuff like how people say they do. Controversial opinion, I know. And even atheistic ones are like not that big of a deal, so there's that. So there was one book written by a psychologist who she claimed was a patient's real experience, and that they gave their consent to write it, and it was like their wayward troubles because they rejected God or something like that, and people use that all the time. But turns out the account was 100% fiction. It never happened. So this woman reposted something on her Facebook profile again, showing the Pride Parade that happened in my country's capital, and then a day later or something like that it started raining, because guess what, geographically speaking, it was a lot of rain. That's kind of the point, unfortunately, because climate change and stuff. But no, she didn't amount it to climate change. She mounted it to people being gay and celebrating who they are. By the way, you do need permits for protests, for pride marches and stuff like that in my country, especially if you're occupying a big old street. And this is done months in advance, and you discuss with the mayor, you underline what's going to happen at the event, etc., and then the mayor has to approve it. It's a process, okay? And it can be rejected, so there's also that. For big scale events like this, which are public, so it's not that, of course. And also in the Catholic Church, gay people are accepted. They're just not allowed to act on it, which is very strange in my opinion, but it's a whole nother discussion. Anyways, and then in her post, it was a caption which she copied and pasted from somebody else with credit. That person said that it's because of these music festivals that happen in my country, which are very popular and have been popular for years, and people pop pills, and Satan and a demon is associated with every festival, like Beelzebub, Lilith. Lilith is the first feminist, changed my mind, by the way. She's not bad, okay? And I was like, what is going on here? This is so weird. But then again, unfortunately, that's how boomers are. They don't think critically, most of them. They just jump on the bandwagon without doing any proper research because Facebook is their research, apparently. No wonder.
You know, even though she died in like 2014 or something, not 2009, I'm sorry. This thing is still ongoing, and people still believe that through hypnotherapy, which is already kind of a fringe belief, it's not really a real science or something like that, but then again, I have no idea, but at least this kind of hypnotherapy, it's all based on hearsay, and you can't just change your own DNA and chromosomes and stuff. That's not how the human body works. The chromosomes are given to you by your parents, and your DNA is basically those chromosomes. And there are lots of myths about DNA and chromosomes. For instance, if you're already pregnant and you're having an affair with somebody, that somebody else will change the chromosomes of the child, which what? That's not how it works. But, okay. And fringe beliefs like that. And that's why I was inspired to make that video, because I was so, not pissed, but I was scared that people would still fall for it, and I just wanted to share my thoughts. I wanted to share my beliefs as well. And yes, I am religious. Not extremely religious, but I'm still religious, you know? And I just needed to talk about it. And again, I didn't see any sort of negative videos about it before. I only saw like positive videos and videos posted by her own estate, which obviously, and stuff like that. And you know what? I'm not scared of their estate coming for my ass, because I'm not that well known. My channel is very small. Transformative content, because I didn't just repost the video, I also added in my opinions. This is all. This video will exceed, is about to be 30 minutes long, so this is all I can muster for now, and thank you for listening, I guess. It's going to be boring, because there's going to be one picture across the entire video, but I hope you understood what I was trying to say, so see you soon, I guess.